The third day of the Durban Film Mart taking place in eThekwini, KwaZulu-Natal continues to focus on animation and its role in the telling of fresh stories from Africa. Nqobile Madlala is in Durban and has been watching the festival for us. Nqobile, you spoke to some of the people attending this festival. What's been the highlight today on day 3?
Well, I think everyone is trying to figure out how they can better tell those stories via animation. This is mainly because this is an industry that's very small in this country, and as a result, it requires a lot of money to be pumped into the industry so that they can initially, they can flourish some more. We know that there's a young talent that's here that's been asking questions. They've been they've been listening to the panel that's been speaking about sort of the issues in the industry and how they can grow the industry. And one of the people that were in that panel, or rather speaking to the people that were in the panel, because you were discussing it with them, is Isabel. And Isabel, I think what was very important that started coming out was that a lot of people have ideas, but they don't know how to ensure that it ends up on TV and it ends up in the film, it ends up in the mainstream. What would you say are the challenges far beyond that?
I think the biggest block or barrier to entry is the business skills. I think the industry is limited by schools that only teach the animation, so you become an animator, and there's no schools teaching the business of animation or the business of show business. So producers are a critical skill shortage in this country, and that's a real limitation. And so this is where interventions like incubators become really critical, because incubators are the space in which you take SMMEs in and you give them, you analyze their skills needs, and you design the program according to their needs. So you fill those gaps for them: licensing and merchandising, marketing, legal, and so forth. So these are all critical skills that really help empower them towards that journey of success in an animated project.
And of course, it sounds like you've got a lot on your hands to deal with, based on the fact that people need to know how to get to those areas. But also, there's a gentleman that stood up and he said you could potentially have the work, but how do you find the studio type of thing where you can do or you can create this animation? What happens in that sense?
Well, we have a website, www.animationsa.org, and we're developing it in a way that it becomes a resource center for people. So animators can put up their links to their portfolios, and studios can go onto that list and select animators, writers, so the community. So we're going to be launching that in the next few months and putting it out on social media around, join the organization, become a member, so that you have access to the opportunities that the organization presents. And because we're mandated as Animation SA to create an enabling environment to grow the industry. So we're now really just making awareness across all of the ecosystem pieces that, they all form part of this ecosystem. And how do we create a coordinated plan around really growing the industry together?
And there's various types of animation I've learned myself, that there's stop motion, there's 2D, there's third, there's all sorts. Take us through what is popular these days, or what people are starting off as.
Well, the biggest challenge is that the schools limit the animation industry by only teaching 2D and 3D animation. And so there's a huge opportunity and a huge gap in using the other disciplines to drop the barriers to entry for young people, especially in rural areas and townships, where stop frame animation is, take crafters, little characters, and use your phone and create stop frame animation. And you can get tutorials online. Sand animation just requires a light box and sand, and you're creating your animation with your cell phone. So really dropping the barriers to the fact that this is a high-tech, high-expense industry, but bringing back some of those disciplines that have kind of disappeared, and bringing in fine artists to create that, charcoal animation, and just bringing that community together and saying, with your combined skills in art centers like music and theater production and acting and art, that when you come together and create a script together, all your skills are required for a little animated film. So start playing with animation. Go online and get tutorials and look at what's possible.
Thank you very much for speaking to us. That is Isabel, and I think what I'm getting from what you're telling me is a collaborated efforts is what is needed to ensure that this industry flourishes and that more people can come into the industry, because it is really an industry that is in a dire need for more talent to be seen and to be explored, to be exposed in this industry.
Nqobile Madlala, thank you for that update.